people are only going to see this if something bad happens to me. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Chase, and today I will be reviewing AEW Dynamite from December 8th, which was headlined by FTR versus the Acclaimed for the AEW Tag Team Championship. I'll be giving you all my hot takes from the matches and biggest angles of the night, as well as telling you what I was the biggest fan of from this episode of Dynamite. But before we get into all that, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Stephanie M. Chase. Also, check out my OnlyFans and merch store, which will be linked in the description. And check out my Patreon to support this channel and for exclusive content. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, before we get on to Dynamite, a bit of AEW news, and once again, it is about William Regal, because before Wednesday's show, Tony Khan did a media call to promote Saturday's Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view, where he explained the Regal situation. Now, Tony started by opening up on some personal struggles he's been going through in recent months. His mother had 2 strokes. Fortunately, Tony's mother is doing much better now, but best wishes and much love to the Khan family. He said that Regal had approached AEW lawyer Mega and asked for them not to pick up the option year on his contract after the deal expired at the end of this year. Regal's son Charlie Dempsey just debuted on NXT, and Regal wanted to go back to WWE to work with him. Tony said that he mulled this all over, but given what he was going through with his mum, he didn't want to keep any parent and child from being together. So Regal will be released later this month, and from what we and Tony understands, he is going back to WWE to work behind the scenes. Now on to Dynamite, and we kicked off with the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. The participants were Jungle Boy, Ricky Starks, Dustin Rhodes, Ethan Page, Lee Moriarty, Orange Cassidy, Kip Sabian, Matt Hardy, The Butcher, Sean Dean, Dalton Castle, and Brian Cage. Now, Dustin Rhodes recently announced at an indie show that he would be retiring as a wrestler in 2023. So it's quite interesting that he not only got a spot on the match, but he also got a TV entrance as well. The show was from Austin, Texas, where he lives. So in the match, early on, the boys tried to save Dalton Castle. They did initially, but he ended up getting eliminated by Brian Cage. So I think Dalton was done a little bit dirty here. I am biased because I'm a big Dalton Castle fan, but this is a former Ring of Honor world champion who we recently saw challenge Chris Jericho as a former champion. He's also holding gold in Ring of Honor. He is a 6-man champion. So I just thought he was eliminated way too early. He's also fighting on the pay-per-view on Saturday. We had Jungle Boy out here before the Final Four thanks to W. Morrissey. He eliminated Perry, even though he was in the match, to get him away from Ethan Page, and then he hit him with a nasty choke slam onto the edge of the ring. The commentators were referring to him now as Big Bill. I guess Big Willie didn't work out. When we got to the Final Four, it was quite an odd selection of people. We had Ethan Page and Ricky Starks in there. Now, they were the 2 favorites going in, but then we had Sean Dean and Matt Hardy. Now, Sean Dean still being in there, it does make sense in a way because he has a win over MJF, but it kind of doesn't make sense as well because we never see him on TV. So it does seem a bit random to me and a bit too much of a deep cut there. Matt Hardy is still in this because AEW is just determined to let him continually workshop a career until the end of time, it seems. Starks eliminated Hardy after having this whole pointlessness between Hardy and Ethan Page over their contract. Starks and Page ended up at the end going over the top together, but Starks held on and he won. But as Starks was celebrating his victory, MJF came out. Firstly, MJF called out Danielson, said that he's not here because he's scared. And then he just laid it in on Ricky Starks. He made a reference to people saying that Starks was like the Rock, but he said he was more of the Pebble. He said he was going to send him back to the NWA to wrestle for Billy Corgan on YouTube. And it just seemed like quite the annihilation of Ricky Starks. until Ricky Starks got the mic and cut the absolute promo of his life. Ricky then let rip on MJF. He went after everything. He went after his suits being ill-fitting. He went after Burberry. And as you know from last week, I could actually give Ricky some material on why you would not wear Burberry if you are rich. He also went for like his questionable fake tan sometimes. He called him a cockpit Roddy Piper. He even mentioned MJF missing the meet and greet. It was all just excellent stuff. As I said, it was like the promo of his life. And we now know that, so Ricky has the title shot at Winter is Coming, and he has decided that he's going to go for both the title and the diamond ring at Winter is Coming. So this was quite confusing for a lot of people. It was confusing last week when it was brought up as well. I don't think they did much better a job at explaining it, but Ricky wants to take both at once. I'm not really sold on whether this is a good idea or not, because Ricky did such a great promo that I don't want him to just get beaten by MJF and then like thrown back down the card. And the diamond ring, if they had separated these matches, there would have been a way, I think, of having Starks win the ring from MJF, so he at least like leaves this feud with something. But anyway, that's not what they're doing. But next week it will be Starks and MJF for everything. We then had this pre-tape from Moxley. It just made me laugh because one of the big talking points I felt like coming out of Dynamite last week was Hangman Page coming back, and whether or not people like knew or it was well explained why Hangman Page would be so angry at Moxley. You had people that thought it was a badly done segment. You had people that were totally into it. This week, Moxley almost seemed to like blow it off. His whole pre-tape was way more aimed at the JAS than at Hangman Page. Next up for the TNT Championship, we had Samoa Joe versus Darby Allen. This was excellent. This was Samoa Joe's best match in AEW, maybe his best match in a couple of years, actually. This was totally in Darby's wheelhouse, you know, him going after a big man where he's trying to knock down the big man but just hurting himself so much in the process. He took himself out early on with a tope where he hit the concrete and the guardrail. There were so many crazy spots. He took every wild bump that he could. But the thing about Darby is he's so much more than just a bump taker. Like, that's what he does on the surface. But if you really watch his matches, he's great. He has great facials, the way he executes things. He's just a great undersized underdog babyface that will do absolutely anything. And I feel he's still so underutilized by AEW right now. And the finish to this match was excellent because the coffin drop is almost like RKO like, because there's so many great things that can come out of it or lead into it. And this one, it was Darby went for the coffin drop, but Samoa Joe caught him in a choke and he just passed out. And if you rewatch this, just focus on Darby's eyes the whole time. He really, really is excellent. But post-match, Darby woke up and he got a muscle buster onto an upturned skateboard for his trouble. And then we had Wardlow coming out like too late to chase Samoa Joe off. As I said, excellent match. Only criticism I have to give is we do have this Ring of Honor pay-per-view on Saturday. Samoa Joe is just out here having his best AEW match with Darby Allen. Then out comes Wardlow, who he's feuding with. Neither of these two guys you're going to see Samoa Joe against on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. He's taking on Juice Robinson, who was nowhere to be seen. So, great match, but a bit of confusion with the ending there and Joe's direction and this whole him being both TNT champion and the Ring of Honor TV champion. So then we had from the Blackpool Combat Club, Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli taking on from the JAS, Jake Hager, his hat, and Daniel Garcia. Now, this is to set up the fact that at Ring of Honor Final Battle, we have Claudio going against Jericho for the Ring of Honor World title, and we have Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia for the Pure Championship. Now, Jon Moxley was out here in the corner of the Blackpool Combat Club. Initially, I thought maybe that was to offset Jericho being on the side of JAS, but he wasn't there. Instead, it was Sammy Guevara. So I think that this was just to show that Moxley is still invested in the Blackpool Combat Club, despite what happened to William Regal, but more on that later. This was a totally fine match. I think there were some good spots with Garcia, and it was just a little something to build up what is happening at Final Battle on Saturday. But then we get into the post-match, which was the most bizarre thing on the show, because Tony Schiavone appeared in the ring to interview Moxley and the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club, and he showed an old William Regal interview. This was taped apparently about 2 weeks ago. So this was basically what you would see in a movie when everyone goes to a will reading and a videotape plays of the person that's dead, and he says, if I die, if you're watching this, it means I'm dead. Absolutely bizarre. Regal decided to basically say that he knew what MJF would do, and he made this alliance to screw Moxley out of the world title because the Blackpool Combat Club don't need him, but they would never let him go, and instead, like, he's literally in his will leaving Wheeler Yuta to them. Really bizarre. This is maybe like Regal's, it's at least his second exit. If you want to count the week before he got taken out, it's his third. They've just tried so hard to really wrap up every loose end in this Regal storyline that it's just become a bit too much. I think him being stretched out last week, like, that was enough. That was it. They went back to John Moxley in the ring, who could not care less about this. I think Moxley has seemed really checked out of this whole storyline. I would say even before the match with MJF, I think that he didn't seem into that either, especially like the time that I saw him in Connecticut, which was just a week before the pay-per-view. He's definitely checked out of this Regal stuff. He wants to move on. I bet he would much rather be progressing the Hangman story, but for some reason, like on this edition of Dynamite, he was still like forced into this Blackpool Combat Club situation. But he just ended by like talking about Saturday's match and wrestling and absolutely nothing on the William Regal. Totally bizarre segment. Next, we had Jade Cargill and her baddies, Red Velvet and Layla Gray, taking on the team of Madison Rayne, Sky Blue, and Kiera Hogan. This, I thought, just was a bit of a nothing match. I think that obviously the baddies got rid of Kiera Hogan, but I don't think this has been a very strong storyline that people are invested in. I will say I thought Red Velvet looked really good in this match. She's a really fierce competitor, and she's someone that's been really underutilized as well, like with the situations that they've brought her in on ever since she appeared in AEW. But with Jade, you know, she just needs direction. She's coming up to 50 wins here, and there is no clear person that you're looking at that could beat Jade. And what we need to see is her in a proper program, her in a proper feud. They need to build up someone else to be the person to dethrone Jade, and then maybe move Jade on to the women's title. Or they need to build up just a really strong challenger for her so that her winning becomes more than just like another notch on her belt. And certainly, at least I will say, there was no Bow Wow here. Bow Wow stayed at home. Finally, in our main event, we had the Acclaimed, the AEW Tag Team Champions, taking on FTR. This was an awesome match. Now, the Acclaimed do not have the polish of FTR when it comes to doing tag team spots, but like, they have heart. Like, they really have heart, and it makes them and their kind of lack of polish and FTR, who are just so technically good, work really well together. I thought these teams had such great chemistry. They were both total baby faces, so the crowd was behind both of them. It was just a wonderful match. It was worked so well. The ending came when Wheeler hit a home run lariat and powerbomb stack, but Caster rolled through it, hooked the legs, and got a flash pin. So that's how they kind of protected FTR in the ending, with like a flash pin. Post match, they all shook hands and they all scissored together, and then we got a video from the Gun Club, who are apparently friends of the Briscoes and can deliver messages for them because the Briscoes are not allowed on TBS. The message was that at Ring of Honor Final Battle on Saturday, we are getting a dog collar match between FTR and the Briscoes. But yes, FTR and the Acclaimed, awesome match. All I would say was, why book this match on this particular date? I mean, this is a match that we've wanted to see, but you book it just days before FTR are going to defend their Ring of Honor belts on pay-per-view. So you have the Ring of Honor tag champions lose to the champions, who in this universe, I guess, is definitely telegraphed, are the better, bigger champions like right before the pay-per-view. I just thought it was a strange choice. They really booked themselves into a corner, but I'm sure there's definitely going to be a rematch, and I, for one, can't wait for it. And as for what I was the biggest fan of from this week's Dynamite, it is Darby Allen. Yes, Darby Allen, I loved your match with Samoa Joe, and I wish we could get back to the days where you were the TNT champion taking on a different comer every week. So here's to you, Darby Allen. And that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, go follow me on my social channels, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Stephanie M. Chase. Go check out my merch and OnlyFans link below. Also, check out my Patreon and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. And very soon, you will be seeing on it a preview of Ring of Honor final battle with me and Tyler Sage from Pro Wrestling Torch. So look out for that. And I will catch you again next time. Bye.